Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. So earlier today, this has nothing to do with the blog, but I just wanted to talk about it for a second. Earlier today, we were in the car going to lunch to meet one of my favorite former clients and great friends with her husband and baby.
New baby.
We got to hang out with a baby. It was so great. And I was like kind of in a funk. And so we played a game, which was on a list of things to like help raise your mood. And the game was to name awesome feelings from A to Z, like. And then we decided
things that you like.
Well, just like uplifting things. And so we decided to make it better by naming hot men from TV or movies or fiction, either the actors or characters from A to Z. And we really had problems with F.
With F? And are there any male names that start with Y?
That was hard.
Those were the two ones that
there
stumped
are just
us.
not like there's not many Americans. I'm sure there's plenty of other people in all of other countries with names that start with Y.
It was a very fun game though. So if you're in a funk, it's a great
see how
way.
many hot people. I mean, men or women, who cares? But we picked men.
Or you could do the original game too, which is just things that you like or things that make you happy.
We did that version.
Good feelings.
It wasn't as fun as doing like Han Solo and
Ian Somerhalder.
Ooh, and Zane from Younger, Charles Michael Davis, who's like
I know, that was good
hot.
for our harder letters.
Ooh, Eric Killmonger from Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
Totally forgot about him. Kyle Chandler from Black Panther. Not from Black Panther, from Friday Night Lights. That was on our list. So anyway, just a little hot tip if you want to feel a little bit better. Make yourself a list of fun things. See if you can challenge yourself to do it in a few minutes or something. Like, just really go for it. Anyway. That has nothing to do.
It can't help but raise your mood.
Okay. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about today.
No, that was just a fun little intro.
Okay.
Well, what is the blog today?
Well, this is a story, a little bit of a story, and also just some advice for you about a time when I needed to quit something that I was kind of feeling awkward about quitting because it had to do with our business and people liked it. And it didn't make sense for me to quit, but I did it anyway. And so this is about kind of that, what to do when you feel like you might need to quit, but you're not sure how to tell. I don't think quitting is always an obvious thing to do. Sometimes it's not like a booming God-like voice parting the heavens saying, you must go. It's often more subtle.
More nuanced and more complicated than that.
So I especially talk about that version of needing to quit when it's not obvious.
How to know when it's time or not time. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guarantee you there's some people who need to hear that right now because they're trying to figure out if they should quit or not. So let's get into it.
Okay. And then at the end, I put some episodes together about quitting.
We've got a whole compilation of quitting resources for you.
So we'll talk about those in a minute.
Okay.
How to know when it's time to quit a job or anything else. If you started following us in the last couple of years, you probably don't know that we used to do this thing called Clarity Gems. They were pretty images with a quotable on them that people got in their inboxes once a week. They were fun to write, in part because they were so different than a traditional blog. It was all about getting straight to the point instead of meandering to one, as you know we like to do. I like to think of them as a magic 8-ball that people shook up once a week and got exactly the message they most needed. And people loved them. We got feedback regularly about how our Clarity Gems made someone's day or helped someone see their situation in a new light. And yet, I quit doing them a few years ago, even though logically it should have been easy to keep doing it. I mean, it was a weekly image and a handful of paragraphs once a week. How hard could it have been, right? But I just couldn't muster the energy for it anymore. I had plenty of mixed feelings about calling it quits, but I'd been there before. feeling the desire to transition, to move on, and I recognized the signs. I couldn't pretend they weren't there. So in this week's blog, I'm walking you through how I made the decision to quit when logically I should have kept doing it, and how you can tell when it's time for you to quit, not just your job, but anything. I just felt different. I was so gung-ho about Clarity Gems at the beginning, and for a long time thereafter, I felt all in. That's the insidious nature of change, though. Sometimes it happens so incrementally that you don't notice that you feel different for a long time. And then when you do notice, you start to second-guess yourself. Because it happens so gradually, it's easy to start wondering, did I always feel this way? Maybe I'm looking back in hindsight and seeing it wrong. Surely if this thing wasn't right, it would feel more obvious. When it came to writing Clarity Gems, I realized I felt more neutral about it than I had 2 years earlier when I started. I certainly didn't dislike writing them, but I didn't feel as all in as I had before. I can't really explain why, that's just how I felt. What I do know to be true is this, though. Feeling neutral about your life and anything in it is not the goal. I wanted to feel all in most of the time, with as many things as possible. So I could have ignored the growing sense of meh that I felt, or I could see it for what I believe it was, a sign pointing me in the right direction. A lot of the time, it's not super obvious that you need to quit. I've had some very clear and obvious experiences that positively screamed, you must quit right now. Unhealthy relationships and terrible jobs tend to top that list. But I think a lot of the time, maybe even most of the time, the necessity of quitting really is not that obvious. Often, the fact that something is wrong for you or no longer right for you shows up as feeling neutral when you used to feel more excited, or a lingering and hard to pinpoint sense of doubt, or feeling somewhat emotionally unattached to the subject, the relationship, the job, whatever the thing is. Or annoyance that you have to spend time on it, and a desire to be spending time doing anything else instead. Relief when you give yourself permission to consider not doing it anymore. What tends to get us, myself included, every time, is our tendency to think that this, feeling hazy, indifferent, neutral, unclear, isn't enough of a reason to let something go. We want something more concrete and logical. We crave some sort of hard evidence that something isn't right because I just don't feel like it doesn't satisfy our desire for certainty. It's normal to want to feel certain before you quit something. The unknown is scary, and trying to feel certain is our mind's way of mitigating fear and risk. Here are all of the things I would have liked to be certain about before I quit creating Clarity Gems. That people wouldn't think we were boring if we only sent blogs out once per week. That people wouldn't stop reading our emails, or read them less even. That we shouldn't slide backward as a business by cutting our weekly emails in half. That we wouldn't disappoint people who looked forward to getting Clarity Gems in their inbox every week. And that it wouldn't generally prove to be a huge mistake that I ended up regretting. But I couldn't be certain about any of that. Any or all of that could have happened. So if you don't hate it, why not keep doing it? A lot of people, myself formerly included, would probably have said, if you don't hate it and it's not that big of a deal and you could avoid all of the potential consequences of quitting, why not just keep doing it? Well, because I believe the consequences of sticking with something that no longer feels great are far worse than the uncertainty of quitting. We're not meant to live our lives feeling bored or indifferent or meh. To live that way for the purpose of avoiding fallout, drama, or unexpected consequences isn't really living. If I was going to actually live, I had to trust that doing what felt right, even when I couldn't explain why it felt right, would inevitably be the better decision. Because if I or you stay rooted in something that only feels so-so, then we don't create space for all of the things we'll feel all in about. And I didn't want to miss out on those things. Here's the bottom line. If you don't know whether to quit something or not, your doubt is often the sign that you need to quit. The longer you doubt something, the more sure you can be that it isn't working. If you felt all in, you'd know, and there'd be no reason to doubt it in the first place. And besides, the best way to allow something new, exciting, and right to come into your life is to make space for it by letting go of something else. I will add one caveat to this, which is that if you feel your intuition is all gunked up, you believe you wouldn't even recognize the right decision if it smacked you in the face, then doubt can sometimes be a sign that you first need to get good at recognizing how you feel and then take action. Oh, and by the way, none of those things I was worried about happened. We didn't backslide, people weren't terribly disappointed, our blog continued to be read, and in time, that creative space was filled up by something I do feel all in about, which is this podcast. So, what do you think? I'd love to hear what you might need to quit in the comments.
We promised you a list of more podcast episodes you can go back and listen to if you need more help and advice about quitting. So the first one, how to know if you should quit your job and work for yourself. This one was just back in April 2019. And this is for any of you who are more entrepreneurial in nature and you've been thinking about doing your own thing. And you're like, do I quit? Do I not quit? What, is this worth it?
Is that a terrible idea?
So that one's for you.
Another one is my blog, also from April 2019, about why you don't need to feel guilty about quitting your job, which once you make the decision to quit, then a lot of you are plagued by guilt about how you're going to let everyone down when you do. So you gotta listen to that.
Then we have two Dear Crachels for you. The first one is, I love my job, but hate my team. Should I quit? So essentially, do the people at your work, are they the reason why you should quit or not quit? And that one is from August 2018.
And then a Dear Rachel from May 2018 called, Should I Follow My Passion or Is It Too Risky? I'll also just add that you're pretty safe if you want a conversation about careers and like staying or going and just navigating dynamics at work. Any Dear Rachel has at least one question that's relevant to you.
Yeah. I think probably every single one.
I mean, I don't think we've ever had one where we didn't address something around that, theme.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good bet if you want even more listening. So, okay, that's all, folks. We'll see you on Friday with a new bonus book club episode.
Ooh, this one is good. We're talking about energy vampires.
Yeah.
What that even means.
Yeah,
how to identify the energy vampires in your life and how to disentangle yourself from those relationships.
How to become the human form of garlic, which she never says in the book. That's just something I like to say.
That's like you like to say it about yourself as well.
Well, I have embodied garlic and I do it. I love garlic in every way.
You do.
The waitress at the restaurant today was like, this salad is good, but the restaurant or the dressing will give your breath a little kick. And I was like, it has garlic in it. Bring it on.
You're like, that's my life every day. Don't worry about it.
I love it. Okay.
All right. Well, we will see you on Friday.
Bye.